So if we can imagine we sort of live in here somewhere. It's a Wednesday afternoon, it's sunny in the summer. We're going to go up our green corridor through here to get to the school to pick up our son and daughter. It's a beautiful corridor, it's tree lined, it's shady, it has benches, it has places that we can stop and talk to our neighbours. We get to the school up there where the entrance is, traffic free. Outside the school, we wait. Again, we sit on the bench. We're a bit early. So there's, again, a play area, one of many across the site. There's lots of planting. Again, it's a beautiful space. It's traffic free. So we decide when we pick up our son and daughter, we're going to head west to the local centre. The best thing about that is our daughter's brought her bike to school, so she can cycle traffic free to the local centre. Don't have to worry about cars, none of that. It's a beautiful journey, a proper cycle track. They're learning to cycle at the moment, so this helps. This is a place they can practice. It's a safe place they can practice. We get to the local centre. We think, what are we going to do? It's a beautiful Wednesday, sunny afternoon. Let's get why don't we have a hot chocolate in the square? The cafe is run by our neighbour, so we get it cheap, which is perfect. Our other neighbour comes from the farmyard area to meet us. She's got a small tailoring business over there in a small unit. So we speak to her for half an hour, then we decide, actually, wouldn't it be a great day to go to the park? This huge area of community parkland with its huge adventure playground, perfect for our son and daughter to have a brilliant afternoon in the summer before we decide to go back down this beautiful green route back to our house, probably for a well-earned cold beer after all of that. But what we're trying to do is just paint a picture of how great this place could be. I know we have one or two challenges and considerations, but I believe, and I think we all believe on this table, what a great place it can be.
So now I'd like to take the opportunity to invite representatives from community groups to speak. We have a total of 3 community groups represented here tonight. I will introduce each one in turn. As a reminder, representatives from community groups each have a total of 5 minutes to speak on the subject. I will give you a warning when we get to 30 seconds of your allotted time left, and I will ask you to finish promptly on time just so we can actually get through the entire agenda by 8 o'clock. So again, when you're speaking, can I ask that you speak into the microphone so that people listening on the live stream will be able to hear you speaking. So our first representative is Elizabeth Ems, the community representative from Denvilles. And your time will start, Elizabeth, once you've got the microphone and you start speaking.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Elizabeth Ems, and I'm speaking on behalf of residents of Denvilles Havant regarding the proposed Southleigh development of 1,800 new homes. Generally, I think residents recognise that there is a need for additional housing, particularly social and affordable housing. However, it is vital that such a large development is supported by adequate infrastructure, without which the impact on surrounding communities will be severe. When Havant Borough Council consulted on the local plan, 35% of residents across the whole borough raised concerns specifically about the impact of the Southleigh development. This demonstrates just how significant and widespread these concerns are. At present, the proposed development only has 2 exits, both onto Southleigh Road and both north of the Warblington level crossing. This is already a heavily congested area, and without additional access routes, traffic conditions will worsen substantially. Over recent years, developments at Manor Farm, Nursery Fields, Normandy Way, Harbour View, and the houses at the corner of Southleigh Road and Horndean Road have added more than 800 new homes. These developments have already resulted in a significant increase in traffic and placed considerable pressure on the local road network. The Southleigh proposal would more than double their impact. Crucially, the Southleigh development includes no employment provision, meaning residents will need to commute out of the area for work. This will inevitably lead to a further substantial increase in peak time traffic. Congestion is compounded by the Warblington level crossing. Currently, there are around 12 trains per hour with long periods when the barriers are down. Only 2 of those trains stop at Warblington station, further extending the time the barriers are down. With an increased population at Southleigh, it is reasonable to assume that more trains will stop at Warblington, further increasing current delays. There have been numerous unsuccessful attempts in the past to work with Network Rail to reduce barrier downtime. And I think we must accept that Network Rail's priorities are safety and train punctuality. And it is therefore unlikely that this issue can be resolved in a way that meaningfully reduces congestion. In addition, Warblington School already places pressure on the road network during morning and afternoon peak times, further exacerbating traffic problems. So in conclusion, while residents can generally accept the principal development, there is a vital and non-negotiable need for supporting infrastructure. The infrastructure in the plan is vital that it is delivered. And in particular and vitally, residents also need to see clear provision for a spine road through the development and a link road connecting directly to the A27. Without these measures being included in the plans, the Southleigh development risks overwhelming the existing road network, increasing pollution, and significantly harming the quality of life for both new and existing residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Can I now invite Mr. Bateman from the Emsworth Residents Forum to speak? Again, your time will start once you have the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Mike Bateman, and I speak on behalf of the Emsworth Residents Forum. That's the successor body to the Neighbourhood Forum, which was established in 2014 to produce a neighbourhood plan. And this background is important since we were party to the public consultation, which has already been described tonight, and was funded by central government and included workshops in Emsworth, which led to the 2017 Emsworth Denville's draft master plan, which was drawn up by urban planners Levitt Bernstein. This was to be seen as a sort of strategic framework for the site, with the expectation that developers would take this as their starting point. We were able to support that plan since it proposed an infrastructure for the new development, which it matched the needs, and would enable the Emsworth community to coexist with it. And key to that proposal was the so-called spinal link road, which has already been described, which linked the new development to the primary road network, most obviously to the south and the A27. Without it, we had considerable concerns that Emsworth would be swamped by traffic generated by the new development seeking a route to the A27. That route would run down Horndean Road, New Brighton Road and North Street to the A259 for journeys east or west of Emsworth, but North Street is already a congested narrow route in the heart of Emsworth. It's part of the cycle network, but perceived to be unsafe for cyclists, especially where it narrows down to 2 restricted urban carriageways under the railway bridge. It's always been the intention of the Emsworth Forum to encourage active travel, including on the north-south route through Emsworth, but that aim is simply unattainable with any increase in traffic. The alternative north-south route from the recreation ground via the Washington Road underpass is not perceived to be a safe or feasible all-weather day and night route for cyclists. The contention that the new development would accord to the principles of Hampshire County Council's Local Transport Plan, LTP4, and therefore there's no need for a new link to the A27 is dangerously complacent. Were we to be looking at a plan for a new settlement with an integration of residential and employment uses, then an argument for implementing that plan fully in this case and omitting the link road could be supported, but we're not looking at that. Few people who live in Southleigh would work there. Most would commute from there, some by public transport to Portsmouth or Chichester, but many to nodes of employment elsewhere, such as employers along the M27 or in Waterlooville further to the north, making journeys by public transport deeply unattractive, if not impossible. Emsworth is a commuter settlement, even in the last available census in 2021, which was unusual because of the 36% of people working from home in the pandemic. It showed that nearly 40% of those in employment but living in Emsworth commuted up to 30 kilometres each day. So we will have commuters using their cars to get from the new housing to their place of work and back, and it's naive to think otherwise. We've not seen any plans by Hampshire County Council to transition from the current common commuting patterns to a new model where commuting by private transport is dramatically cut. The local situation is made even worse by the very large number of new houses which have been permitted in the last 5 years along the A259 to the east of Emsworth. In that corridor, a very significant number of new homes have been consented or are in the planning pipeline, with 1250 new homes in the Southbourne area alone. All of that brings greater pressure at the junction of North Street and the A259, even without the additional traffic being generated by Southleigh if no new link road is built. And it's our contention that this makes that element in the infrastructure an essential provision in order to ensure that the current road system can continue to operate safely and with reasonable efficiency. So our basic question for Bloor Homes is what traffic modelling was done to lead them to the conclusion that a link road, which was in the original master plan, could be omitted and was no longer required. And we'd be very interested in sharing that modelling at some stage in the future. Turning finally to the plans for the new development presented to date, we'd like to see evidence that in the early stages of the design, that the design principles associated with active travel environments have been fully embraced. We've heard some outline tonight of the way in which active travel is going to be, I think, encouraged was the word, but there needs to be a prioritisation of pedestrians and cyclists over the private car, where routes to nodes of activity are direct for pedestrians and cyclists, but indirect and more tortuous for cars.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Can I ask you to finish now so we can allow plenty of time for everyone else to speak?
Yes, certainly. I'll finish at that point.
I'd now like to invite Mr. Comley from the Havant Civil Society to speak. And again, your time will start once you start speaking, Mr. Comley. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I too would like to paint a picture of a day in the life, but it's a day in the real life. The residents represented by councillors at this DCF live in and around the area shown on the map which forms the background to these slides. We experience these roads every day, the queues, the delays, the conflict points, the school run congestion, the evening peaks. This is our lived reality. It is unlikely that planning officers, the developer or their consultants share that experience. That imbalance matters. Community engagement is essential, yet public input rarely influences decisions that feel predetermined. If this proposal proceeds to a planning committee, we may be granted a further 5 minutes to speak before conditions are confirmed. We may have a final 5 minutes if the developer returns with a Section 73 application to weaken or remove those conditions. Our experience shows that traffic conditions presented as safeguards are rarely enforced. In contrast, the developers, the borough planning officers and the county highways officers enjoy continuous, detailed and interactive access to one another. Their dialogue is ongoing. Ours is strictly time limited, with no scope for constructive elaboration. So I now want to focus on the single issue that determines whether this development can be assessed properly, and that is local road capacity. Next slide 2, David, please. This slide shows the only 4 routes connecting the A27 to the proposed Southleigh development. These are narrow residential corridors already at or beyond capacity. With no new SRN access proposed, all traffic related to these 1,800 new homes and to over 500 that David mentioned earlier, earmarked for Southleigh, must use these 4 routes. So the first question is simple. What else already uses these routes? Slide 3, please, Dave. This slide adds traffic movements from recent and committed developments in West Sussex and East Hampshire. These schemes, approved by neighbouring authorities, all load the same constrained network. Each has its own trip generation profile, but all compete for the same limited road space. Any transport assessment that treats these routes in isolation does not describe how the road network functions. Slide 4, please. This slide adds the final and most significant layer, the Amazon DP01 delivery station. Amazon's traffic is neither constant, verified, nor apparently enforced. The site's traffic already far surpasses the previous occupant, while operation is running at a fraction of its designed capacity. Amazon's 24/7 same-day delivery model is unique, dynamic and flexible. Inbound and outbound vehicle movements are managed by third-party line haul and delivery service partners, supplemented by a flexible gig economy workforce using their own private cars. With no visible evidence of enforcement of the conditions on Amazon's permission, the true baseline is unknown. Without a reliable baseline, no cumulative impact assessment can be considered credible. Slide 5, please. Before I close, one further issue affects public participation. We may all submit comments during the consultation, but the delayed implementation of Harran Borough Council's new planning system makes that process harder and less transparent. For example, the system now forces the user to download documents previously been online. The previous Highline.
I think we have a point from Mr. Barton.
For me. Mr. Comley, talking about the process by which we may manage an application is not the purpose of tonight. The focus is on Bloor's development and not how and what systems we use when we're determining an application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. The 5 questions on screen go to the heart of whether the evidence base will be complete, the modelling credible, and the consultation lawfully and transparent. Chair, I ask that you request written responses to these questions from planning officers and the developer. I do not expect answers today, but they must be addressed before any assessment can be considered sound. Cumulative impact on the local road network cannot be understood, modelled or mitigated until the baseline is real, the data complete and the system ready. Until then, the evidence cannot be considered reliable and the proposal should not be published for formal consultation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Comley, and thank you to all those who spoke on behalf of their community group.